And now that Git and SourceTree are installed, we are ready to proceed with GitHub. So go to github.com, and if you don't have your account, go ahead and click on sign up. The sign up process is fairly pain-free and easy. But in this case, I do have my GitHub account, so I'm going to click on sign in. I'm going to type in my email and my password. And now I'm logged in, and on the left side, you are going to see some of the repositories that I already have. Some are blurred out. Anyway, let's proceed with creating a new GitHub repository by clicking on this green button which says new. And now we are welcomed with this new window. And first thing, we have to type in our repository name. I recommend, it's not necessary, but I personally prefer and recommend to name my repositories just the same way I would name my projects. So in this case, let's give it some funny name like Tutorial Alpha Project. So we got a little bit creative here with the name. Anyway, proceeding, public or private. Now, in most cases, you're gonna select private because you're working on your projects yourself, or maybe with your collaborators. You don't want others to be capable of accessing your repository. Now, proceeding, initialize this repository with, I recommend adding a README file and adding a gitignore file. Now we are going to have this drop-down menu, and depending on your platform or your developing environment that you're using, you will have other options. But for this case, we want to select Unreal Engine. You could also type in and Unreal Engine is going to show up. It's selected. Okay, choose a license. I'm not going to choose any license for the moment, and I'm going to create repository and give it a few seconds, and boom, done. Okay, our repository has been created, and as you can see at the moment, it only contains these two files, which are readme.md and .gitignore files. Now I'm going to show you how to create the project and push it, or in other words, upload it, so that we have some files here as well. All right, let's proceed. So open Epic Games Launcher, library, and here you can see I have just 4.26.0 version of Unreal Engine installed, and I only have this one project, which we can ignore at the moment. So let's launch the project. Launch the engine. And now select or create a new project. I'm going to select games so that I create a new project. Next, I'm going to select third-person template, which I like to use for tutorials. And the directory, I have a special directory which I keep for my Unreal Engine projects, which is already pre-selected for me, but I'm going to select it once again anyway. And now I'm going to name my project, which should be called Tutorial Alpha Project, just like my repo. Tutorial Alpha Project. As I said before, you don't have to have the same name between your project and repository, but this is the way I prefer it. And I pressed on create project, and now I'm going to give it a few seconds, and our project is created. We can start developing, we can do stuff with it, but I'm going to close it for the moment so I can upload it, or to use proper term, push it to repository. Okay, let's proceed. First, I'm going to rename the project's folder. Now let me first show you how I accessed that folder. Right click on your project in library, show in folder. Okay, I can minimize the launcher, and I can go back one branch. And now I'm going to rename the folder of my project. And I'm going to show you why. That's because when you want to clone your repository from GitHub, it doesn't allow you to do so if you already have the same name of the project present in your folder. So that's why I've renamed this folder, but I'm going to create the exact same folder just in a second by cloning the repo. So now is the time to clone our repo, which is going to be empty, and then I'm going to move files from this folder inside the new folder, which is going to be our repo or repository folder, and then we are going to proceed. Anyway, enough talking, let's do the stuff. All right, first things, open source tree and click on clone, then go back to your browser and your repository and click on this green button, which is going to open as a menu, and you want to select HTTPS, and you want to copy this link, or you can just press this icon in order to copy the directory to your clipboard. Now you can minimize. All right, coming back to source tree, we have this clone tab, and now in this text field we have to paste our repository, and when you paste the link nothing is going to happen, but once you click elsewhere it's going to do stuff, and it's going to ask you for your GitHub credentials, and it's GitHub. It's going to ask me to sign in. I'm going to click on sign in. Authentication succeeded. You may now close this tab. I'm going to do so. Coming back to source tree. Okay, so repository type. This is a Git repository, so it has been recognized. Okay, so now we have to select where we want to store our repo or clone it, and we can see this is the incorrect location of the project. I'm going to select the correct one. This is the old project. I want to select, I actually don't want to select anything, but I'm going to right click new folder and name it tutorial alpha project, because as I said before, if I was to select this, it wouldn't allow me to clone here, or I would make some mess. But anyway, this is where my Unreal Engine project files currently are sitting. But for the moment, I'm going to select this folder, which doesn't have the underscore. Okay, select folder, and the project name is already selected. The directory is fine. Root folder, this doesn't have to be changed. Advanced options doesn't have to be changed. Leave it as default. And now I'm going to click on clone and give it some time. Now what it has already done actually is it has downloaded, or to use a proper term, it has pulled the files from the repository, and it was very quick, as you could see, because there are only 2 files to be downloaded or pulled, if I was to use the proper term. Anyway, we are now in our source tree, back again, and you can see tutorial alpha project tab. That's the name of our repository. And now we have other menus. And now if we go to history tab, we can see the history of our repository. Anyway, coming to the right side of our screen, we have terminal and we have explorer buttons, which are interesting. Okay, when you press explorer, it's going to open local directory of your project, which we are going to populate with our files in a second. But before that, I'm going to close it and show you another interesting button, which is terminal. When you click on this, it's going to open your Git bash terminal automatically. In other solution, you could open the repository, right click and Git bash here. But as you can see, this terminal button does the same thing but much quicker. And we can close them for the moment, and we can close everything. And now let's go to our repository, and I'm going to back up one step, and this is our source tree, or should I say local GitHub repository, but this is our Unreal Engine project. And in order to, well, make things consolidated and proper, I'm going to move files from here by selecting all of them and right click, cut. I'm going to go back and open this folder, which is our Git repository folder. And you can verify that this is a Git repository by looking at these additional files and cache folders. Anyway, proceeding with the actions, right click and paste. And now my project files are here. I can freely delete this old folder. And let's, for the sake of security, double check and verify that we can open our project, because we were cutting, pasting, moving stuff. It's working just fine. Okay, so now the files of our Unreal Engine project are merged in the folder of our repository. So now let's go back to our source tree, and you can see when I click, it has refreshed. And if it doesn't refresh, just close down the source tree and open it again. All right, so now we can see files here under Unstaged tab, and we are going to push the repository, the files of our project. And as you can see, let me show you this actually. So you can see some folders and files, tutorial, that's our main project file, that's fine. You can see config, you can see content, you can see config and content folders, but you can't see saved or intermediate or derived data cache folders. Why? Because this part is taken care of by git ignore file. So git ignore file tells Git to ignore certain folders or files. And let's right click and open it so you can see. And you can see it's ignoring builds folders as well. Derived data cache is ignored, or should I say derived? I don't know what's the correct pronunciation. Plugins folder is ignored, saved is ignored, build is ignored, and etc, etc. You can also edit this git ignore file yourself with Notepad or Notepad++ or any text editor. but proceed with caution and do things only if you are certain that you know what you're doing. Anyway, coming back to source tree, we have these unstaged files, which means that they are not prepared to be staged or pushed at the moment. And now, if we go through them, and if we verify that everything is fine, and that we want to push them, we can click on stage all, or we could, as I prefer it, select them manually or in bulk in order to be extra careful, because when you're developing things, there will be some cases where you want to verify manually and go one by one file or folder just to make sure that you don't commit things that you didn't want to commit. It's reversible if you make bad things, but I think this is a better practice because it's gonna save you some time and headache. Anyway, after I have selected the files that I want to be pushed, I can click on stage selected, and now this is giving me this warning message, which says the following files are 10 megabytes or larger. Are you sure you want to add them to source control? Now, GitHub allows you to store files up to 100 megabytes in your repositories. So you should never have files that are bigger than 100 megabytes. In some extreme cases, you could do some workaround, but this won't be covered in this video because only some textures, some crazy textures or build data files should be larger than 100 megabytes, but like in 99.9% of cases, you should be fine with this. Anyway, let's press OK and give it some time, because our project has about, let's see, if I select content and config, the size is almost 700 megabytes, so it's gonna take some time. Okay, it's ready to be staged, and I mean it is staged, and now we have to commit. So these files are ready, and now what we have to do is type in the comment and the label of our commit. So let's go ahead and do just that. Let's call it initial commit adding third person template project files. And you can hold shift and enter and do it again. So the first line that you type in, just like I did, is going to be your label. It's going to appear here, just like this one, which is called initial commit. And things that you type in after are not going to show up immediately. So let's type in some additional comments so that we know what we have done and our colleagues and collaborators are going to be informed. So, and that's it for this comment. It's fine. And now all we have to do is click on commit, and the things are ready to be pushed. And you can see on the upper left side, this push icon has been changed. And yes, you could click here and let the source tree do its thing and push it. But the way I prefer and the way I think it is more safe is to do it with terminal. So let's click on terminal. And the only thing that I have to do now is type in git spacebar push and press enter. And now I'm going to let it upload, or to use proper term, push the files. And you can see the status of files as they are being uploaded to our GitHub account. And now, after this is done, I'm going to make some changes to the project, just some quick changes so I can show you the process afterwards. And then after that, I'm going to delete the local repository intentionally, just to show you how you can clone your repository afterwards. Now that the push process has completed, we can see some warnings which are letting us know that we might want to try Git large file storage for some of our files which are larger than 10 megabytes, but we can ignore it since we are safe as long as we don't push any files that are bigger than 100 megabytes. And we can close this down, and we can go to source tree and click on history, and we can see that we have this new commit, which is the one that we just did. And let's refresh the source tree, and now this small addition on push icon is gone. And now we can come back to our repository on GitHub website and refresh, and now we see that we have our files appearing here, so it's working just fine. And now I'm going to show you how you can push more changes. So now you're basically ready to develop your project and store it in cloud. And when I say cloud, I mean GitHub. So let's create some changes. Let's do something quick. BP underscore first actor tutorial. And let's do some stuff. It doesn't have to be pretty, just for the sake of quickly adding something. And let's close the project and go back to source tree and go back to file status. And now again, just like before, we have this unstaged files tab, and we have this file detected, the file that we have just created. Let's label the commit. Now my comments are awful, obviously, and you want to keep yours nice, tidy, but for the sake of tutorials, I guess it's nice and just fine. But before committing, I have to stage the file since I forgot to do so. And you can also click on this plus sign to stage it, and it's staged, ready to be committed. And I can now click on commit, and just like before, click on terminal and press git push, type in git push I mean, and it's gonna be much quicker because this is just one file. And now we have no warnings because the file was just a few kilobytes. And let's close the terminal, close the source tree, and check once again in our repository on the GitHub website, and let's go into content folder and third person BP, I believe. Yes, here it is. Here is our another folder, another file that we have just pushed, and we have the timing of the push, which is 37 seconds ago. and the label is another push. And now I'm going to clone this repo on my other computer, and I'm going to change some things on that computer, and then I'm going to show you on this machine how to proceed. So we are going to simulate a scenario in which you are actually collaborating with other people, with your friends, your colleagues, collaborators, clients, doesn't matter. And then I'm going to show you the process how to proceed. Thank you for watching this video. Feel free to leave your comments and share this video with other people. Don't forget to press like and subscribe buttons, it means a lot to us. Also, if you're interested to get to know us better, check out our website at valsogard.com. And again, thank you for watching and see you soon.